करें तो पार्लियामेंट्री अफेयर्स मिनिस्टर वो रह चुके हैं और अगर वो
that we are getting right now of Jagdeep Dhankhar filing his nomination papers for the post of Vice President. To remember that Jagdeep Dhankhar, of course, the governor of West Bengal, is filing his nomination for the post of Vice President. Now, Margaret Alva from the Congress party is the opposition's candidate. However, as we've seen in the presidential polls as well, opposition unity seems to be fractured there yet again. Jagdeep Dhankhar, as he filed his those pictures on your screen of him being supported by the Prime Minister. I think there's also being supported by the leadership of the BJP over there, as well as top leaders of the government. Abhishek Kapoor with us. Abhishek, you know, the process, of course, is similar to the one that's followed when the President's nomination papers are filed?
Well, yes, the process is same. It happens before the Secretary General of the Lok Sabha. For the Secretary General of the Lok Sabha, Raj Sabha, I beg your pardon, and who happens to be the returning officer. We are seeing in the pictures led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi the entire delegation of leadership of the BJP and the NDA. So, for example, apart from Prime Minister, on his left is, of course, the Vice President's nominee of the BJP, Jagdeep Dhankhar. Then I can see Rajnath Singh and then Parliamentary Affairs Minister Prahlad Joshi, of course Union Home Minister Amit Shah, Senior Minister Nitin Gadkari, Party President JP Nadda. Towards the back you can see Narendra Singh Tomar, you can see RP Aiza Thavale, of course Anupriya Patel of the Apna Dal, and I can see Railway Minister Ashwini Vaishnav and some other leaders. I can see Jyotiraditya Scindia and all these ministers, Dharmendra Pradhan at the back. So the entire top brass of the BJP and many of the NDA allies there to file the nomination papers for the Vice President of India, for which Jagdeep Dhankhar has been selected as the candidate so far as the BJP and the NDA is concerned. Nupur, we are seeing almost a repeat of pictures of the time when Draupadi Murmu was in fact brought in and Prime Minister in fact had walked out to receive her at the gates of Parliament and walked back with her to the chamber of the Secretary General, and now we are seeing similar pictures insofar as Jagdeep Dhankhar's nomination is concerned. Electoral college, of course, little restricted. In the case of President of India, the MLAs also are part of it. So we had seen a lot of chief ministers also coming in from BJP ruled states at that time. They being MLAs of their respective states and the assemblies there. In this case, it's only MPs, and that's why we are seeing only the leaders from the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha present there in these pictures as nomination papers are scrutinized, or this is preliminary scrutiny. Of course, subsequently there is a detailed scrutiny that also happens, and Vice President of India is typically not a member of the either house or any legislature. He or she just becomes the chairman of the Rajya Sabha. In that sense, he or she is the presiding officer of the upper house of the Parliament, in fact, if you become Vice President and if you are at that time member of any of the houses of Parliament or of any legislature, you are supposed to vacate that seat and then become Vice President, a citizen of India above 35 years of age, qualified for election as a member of the Rajya Sabha. These are some of the qualifications that are there to become Vice President of India, who as ex officio is also the chairman of the Rajya Sabha, presides over the functioning. So Prime Minister there becoming the proposer, signing in there after the scrutiny of papers. Of course, all those who second that proposal have already signed in their papers. Typically 20 MPs have to propose and 20 MPs have to second the proposal. So in all 40. In the case of President of India, 50 proposers and 50 seconders, so total 100 In the case of President, the proposers and the seconders can be both MPs and MLAs. In the case of Vice President, obviously all the MPs. So 20 MPs proposing and 20 seconding. That's how the nomination process goes on. We are seeing a small chat happening between the Secretary General and the leaders. A maximum of 4 nomination papers are allowed. I think there is a security deposit as well. All those intricacies being explained. We can see all the leaders from the BJP and some NDA allies, including ADMK, present there to support Jagdeep Dhankhar as their vice presidential candidate. Obviously, the numbers are really in favor of the NDA. 394 at last count, excluding any possibility of cross-voting in a 75 strong electoral college, which constitutes of both the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. A small talk again happening between former West Bengal Governor Jagdeep Dhankhar and Prime Minister Modi. The BJP really pitched him as a farmer's son. Remember, he's from the Jat community. He has been pitched as an OBC as well. But remember, Jats were at the forefront of farmers' agitation much through the 2020-21 period, and the BJP there sort of putting a bomb and bringing back the farmers' vote under the focus again. So he's catering to the farmers constituency, he's catering to the Jat constituency. Remember, Rajasthan and Haryana would be going to polls next year, Rajasthan next year and Haryana next year, and the Jats constitute a very important voting segment in both the states. Dhankhar in fact comes from Rajasthan originally. Of course, he has been West Bengal governor for the last few years. Interestingly, Nupur, if he gets elected, which he is likely to be, he is actually likely to be, both the Speaker of the Lok Sabha and the Chairman of the Rajya Sabha would be coming in from Rajasthan. Om Birla is from Kota district in Rajasthan, and Dhankhar happens to be from Ajmer, so from Jhunjhunu. So both the presiding officers of both the houses of parliament now coming in from Rajasthan. That's an interesting bit as an aside. But even as scrutiny of papers goes on, 4 nomination papers filed. That's the maximum that is allowed, apart from a security deposit of rupees 15,000 that is required to be given by the candidate. The scrutiny is happening. This is random scrutiny. Of course, later detailed scrutiny happens. The date for which is 29th of July, I believe, and the election for vice president has to happen on 6th of August. The last date of the incumbent Venkaiah Naidu is 10th of August, and all the election has to be completed by that time, and that's why the date has been kept for 6th of August. This parliament session is going to see a new president of India and a new vice president of India. Elections for the president, of course, happening as we speak across the country. Now, Jagdeep Dhankhar thanking Prime Minister of India, and all leaders getting up as the process is complete, and they make way and they go out of the chamber. Santosh Gangwar, other leaders, Arjun Munda, Ramdas Athawale, Anupriya Patel, as Prime Minister walks out of the chamber, taking Jagdeep Dhankhar, the vice presidential nominee of the BJP and NDA. Now outside in the walkway of Parliament, this is the first floor, and Prime Minister there waving at onlookers, even as other leaders come out. And the process of filing nomination for Jagdeep Dhankhar as BJP and NDA's vice presidential nominee for the vice president's post, the election for which has to happen on August 6, getting completed. The opposition, of course, has fielded Margaret Alva. She would be filing her nomination papers perhaps tomorrow. Tomorrow is the last date of filing of nomination. These are earlier pictures. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar also there, M. Thambidurai of the ADMK, and other leaders, the entire galaxy of the BJP leadership present there. when the nomination papers were filed. The process is that there have to be at least 20 MPs proposing the name for vice presidential candidate and 20 MPs seconding it. MPs can be either from the Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha, which constitutes the electoral college, and there can be four sets of nomination papers maximum, and the candidate has to deposit rupees 15,000 as security, and it's again like the president's election. Even the vice president's election happens with a ballot paper and not with an EVM, and the entire exercise slated to happen on August 6, Nupur, and after the elections are held and the votes counted, the returning officer declares the result, and the result is then notified to the central government and the Election Commission of India. Remember, like the president, the election of the vice president also is under the overall supervision of the Election Commission of India, so the announcements have to invariably happen from there. There is an elaborate exercise that is put in place by the Election Commission of India ahead of the polls, updating, like it happens in the case of any other election, updating the voting slips, updating the list of voters. We have seen how recently the Rajya Sabha elections have happened, and the electoral roll has changed with new members. So all those taken into account as voting happens. These are pictures from earlier, about 10 minutes back, when the BJP and NDA leaders were present inside the chamber of the Secretary General to file nominations for Jagdeep Dhankhar, the former governor of West Bengal, now BJP and NDA's nominee for the vice president's post, Nupur.
Right, Abhishek, it's Rukma here. So, Abhishek, our senior executive editor, explaining the entire process there. The filing of the nomination papers underway even as we speak. As Abhishek just told us, top brass of the BJP, led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, present there on this occasion. Union Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, BJP Chief JP Nadda,